Sun Myung Moon teaches, quote, "What is the work of dispensation like? It's something like continuing to swallow hundreds and thousands of fathoms of thread, one after another. Which would be easier, to swallow all that thread, or to complete the dispensation? Swallowing the thread might be easier. How can we imagine women doing that? Those women who are confident they are different, raise your hand." God knows best, however, and as a result, he has refrained from using women as central figures. I would rather have women, even Mother, leave the room and then discuss the important work of dispensation with the men. In this, Mother is outdone by her own young son. If Western women hear this, they will really protest that I'm discriminating. They can't tolerate that idea. End quote.
Thank you very much. And I know you say elections are now a sham.
Yes.
But if we rebuild our union and we have a new country, will it have a 19th Amendment?
19th is women's suffrage?
Yes.
Absolutely not. No. No. That was one of the linchpins of the beginning of the end. Because women's suffrage, what it did is that it took the vote away from the family unit, with the man as the head of the family unit, voting on behalf of his entire family, and it pitted women against men. It was the first wedge into marriage, and it was the first wedge between women and their children. The 19th Amendment was awful, and no, if somebody set up a new republic or a new system or anything, and they said, look, guys, this is how it's going to be. Men are going to vote, and their vote is going to represent their family. I'm there. I am there. The 19th Amendment is a disgrace on civilization.
Anne Barnhart writes, "As soon as the 19th Amendment was passed, men were effectively castrated, and in many, many cases disenfranchised by their wives. No longer was the man the head of the household. No longer was he responsible for his wife. Now the wife was a co-husband at best, or a flat-out adversary at worst. The notion of a man making the final decision about what was best for his wife and family, per his God-given vocation as husband and father, was now over. Now all he was good for was bringing home the bacon. But even that wouldn't last. Women are made with a healthy innate desire to be provided for and protected. I know this because I'm a woman. Women want someone or something to take care of them. For this reason, women tend to lean socialist and are generally in favor of the expansion of government. When the government promises to provide for them, Satan has used this healthy feminine dynamic, perverted by suffrage, to systematically replace men with the government as the providers in society. A woman no longer has any need of a man. Marriage no longer serves any practical purpose. A woman can whore around and have as many fatherless children as she pleases, and pimp daddy government will always be there to provide. Men have learned well from this too. Men can also slut it up to their heart's content, knowing that the government will take care of their women and raise their children for them. Fathering children no longer binds a man to a woman in any way. Men didn't vote to societally castrate themselves, and never would have. No. In order for this system to have come about, women's suffrage was an absolute necessity. Women themselves voted the system into place, which objectifies and devalues both them and their children. Next, the issue of disenfranchisement. I believe that the 19th Amendment actually disenfranchised more people than it enfranchised. Many, many married couples quickly found themselves voting against one another. The man would tend to vote for the more conservative platform, and the woman would vote for the more socialist platform. When this happened, the effective result was the nullification of both individuals' votes. What this did was massively reduce the voting influence of the married household and magnify the voting influence of the unmarried. And the unmarried tend to be younger and thus more stupid. And thus vote for big government. It was all part of the plan, kids. All part of the plan. I probably ticked even one or two of you conservatives off with this post. Here's the question I would ask you. Why? Why are you ticked off? If you're a woman, the reason you're ticked off is because you put yourself and your desire to assert your will above the well-being of society in general. I don't feel that way. I would give up my vote in a heartbeat if it meant that right-ordered marriage, family, and sexuality was restored to our culture. I would rather that my little female namesakes grow up in a world where they did not have the right to vote, but were treated with dignity and respect, were addressed as ma'am, had doors held open for them, and wherein men stood up when they entered the room. I would rather they be courted properly and then marry men who would never ever leave them, and would consider it their sacred duty and honor to protect and provide for their wives and their children because he loved them. Oh, hell yes. I'll give up my vote in exchange for that any day of the week, and twice on Sunday. Why wouldn't you? For you men who don't like my position, you're just a slave to political correctness. The PC culture has convinced you that if you criticize anything that has to do with women or the feminine culture, that you must be a Taliban. Don't fall for that garbage. The celebrated economist John Lott, in his book, Freedonomics, Why the Free Market Works and Other Half-Baked Theories Don't, proves that women getting the vote in the 19th Amendment in 1920 was the reason why America gave up small government free enterprise for big government socialism. He writes, quote, even after accounting for a range of other factors, such as industrialization, urbanization, education, and income, the impact of granting women's suffrage on per capita state government expenditures and revenue was startling. The increase in government spending and revenue started immediately after women started voting. Women's suffrage ushered in a sea change in American politics, end quote. Emily Gunn writes and narrates in her documentary, The Monstrous Regimen of Women, that women getting the vote destroyed the biblical traditional patriarchal family and created a feminist culture of egalitarian marriages and a big government welfare state.
Today in America, 7.8 million more women vote than men. America now falls under the indictment of this verse. As for my people, children are their oppressors, and women rule over them. The men of the suffrage era were willing to abdicate their dominion role to the extent that they were ready to give up half of their electoral power to women. Many women understood this at that time and opposed female suffrage. The 19th Amendment can be seen as the point in American history when the father ceased to sit in the gates as a representative of his family's interests. Individualism and self-interest would now be the principal approach to the ballot box. Security, protection, and provision, once the priorities of the father, soon passed to a paternalistic state, which from that point on has continued to expand radically far beyond its constitutional bounds.
Father Moon teaches, quote, the husband is the head of the household. The final decision in a household in important matters is up to the man. He may consider his wife's opinion and may go through her to disclose and implement the decision, but he is the final decision maker. The wife cannot directly give the inheritance to her sons or daughters because the father is the access. In America, people are confused. They do not understand the right order of things. They do not know who is the one to make decisions or why. I am expressing this and emphasizing it because we have blessed couples here. And this is the heavenly law. Men should manage national affairs. Women should manage the home.